All right. Thank you, Christy, for getting us the recording going. This is our commissioner work session on this Monday, the 18th of March, 2024. We will be joined by Commissioner Frohr shortly online. He'll pop in on the Zoom. But currently, we've got Commissioner Sharon Bolos, who's seated to my immediate right, and myself, Commissioner Harvey. First item that we're going to look at today is the discussion regarding the approval of the minutes for the work session that was held on March the 11th. Are there any corrections or changes you'd like noted?
None for me. You ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion. Thank you.
Motion to approve those minutes as described.
I'll second that motion. We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a discussion regarding a resolution to put ramp on the ballot. This will be given by Shelley Hallisey, who's our chief administrator here, and Chief Legal Counsel, Civil, Chris Crockett. Ms. Hallisey, go ahead, please.
Ramp needs to be on the ballot for 2024. And so Chris's office has done a little bit of research to find out what needs to be done to make that happen. Chris,
I'd like you, before you do that, just for people who might listen on this later, you said you made the statement, ramp needs to be on the ballot. Why does it need to be on the ballot?
Because ramp improves the quality of life for all of the citizens in Weber County.
I respect and agree with that wholeheartedly, but why are we statutorily obligated to put that back on the ballot again? Do you want to handle that, Chris? It was brought up, ramp is how old now?
20 years.
And how long was the contract for ramp? How long when we first did that?
10.
Okay, so we already put it, the people voted to keep ramp around 10 years ago. And now because it's reached its 10-year cycle, it has to go back on the ballot.
Because of the choice of the people.
There we go. That's where I wanted to get to. Perfect. Mr. Crockett, go ahead.
Ramp is a sales tax levied for a 10-year period and has to be reauthorized at the end of 10 years in accordance with 5912-703 of the Utah Code. In order for that to appear on the ballot, and because it's a sales tax, increased sales tax, it has to go to a vote. The commission has to first pass a resolution to submit the opinion question to the voters. And the opinion question would state, shall Weber County, Utah be authorized to impose a 0.1% sales and use tax and that would be for the authorized purposes of ramp, recreation, arts, museums, and parks. And then it would just be on the ballot in the upcoming November election. And the county, if the majority of the voters vote to approve or in favor of it, ramp will continue. But we are up at the expiration of that 10-year period from when ramp was previously authorized.
Very good.
We just wanted to make sure that this wasn't missed or forgotten.
That's great. Thank you so much for doing that. So the question is will the commissioners place this on make a resolution so it can appear on the ballot?
We wanted to bring this up as a work session to see if there's any questions that you wanted us to answer or to provide any reports about ramp, or if you wanted us to do any research, just so the commission is well informed as to whether or not they want to, at a future date at a commission meeting, pass a resolution to put ramp back on the ballot.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. Any questions or concerns about this?
I don't have any.
We talked about is the resolution that you're planning on running for the same tax levy amount? So there has been discussion about increasing that, but right now to keep things so it's not confused, it's going to be for the same amount.
I don't think we can decide that here in Weber County. Is that correct?
I'll have to look at the state statute. And I'll have to verify the statute. It seems that there was discussion in the past to raising that to 0.2%.
And what is it now?
1.1.
So, but I'm pretty sure state statute just says 0.1, but I can verify that very quickly.
Okay, if you would.
And it has to be 75, the resolution needs to be done 75 days before the date of the election.
I don't have any problem with putting that back on the ballot where it exists right now. I would be interested in hearing what the difference is, even if it went to a 0.15 or something like that. Commissioner Bolos, any questions?
No.
And I'll entertain a motion.
Well, is there any,
So can this just be done by a consensus?
we just put this on a work session item. We really didn't list it as an action item. We
Okay,
haven't prepared the resolution. Is there a particular time that would be best for the resolution to come forward? I know there are other groups out there like Ramp Works that we'd
Mhm.
have to
And
coordinate
I've-
with.
Spoken with them and they're ready to go. They're waiting, the lead guy and that is waiting for taxes to be over, but we're already working on some things. It looks like it has to be done, the last day possible would be August 22nd.
I'd like to be ahead of that. I'd like to be before the 24th of July in case something goes awry.
I'm great with that.
Um,
I would do it tomorrow.
Is there any advantage to the timing for those groups that support ramp and will be actively?
I don't think so. I mean, it's probably a benefit for them to say the commissioners have a resolution saying they're putting it on.
Mhm. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I can see that being a benefit.
I don't see any delay then.
so if you're
No.
okay with us drafting up the resolution, we can put it on the upcoming county commission agenda.
Yeah, that's on the agenda on or before the 24th of July.
Okay.
The statute does say 0.1% sales tax.
So it is a state statute.
Mhm.
Okay. There you go.
I know. I wish we could change it. I would love it, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that might just change in statute. So that's something, if, you know, I need to make a little tab and the thing, but things to work on for the legislature for next year.
Mhm.
That'd be okay. Even if it was 0.11.
Yeah.
Or something.
I don't think people would mind because I mean, right now it's $12 a year for a family on average. $24, even if it was two, I mean, $24 wouldn't be with the benefit is worth it, I think.
Once we do pass the resolution, it will kick in the prohibitions of the county engaging in political activities as far as a ballot question. And so we'd have to rely on those other outside groups to advocate.
Aren't there prohibitions already? Even before we adopt a resolution?
Not formally, but yes, it's probably best practice not to engage in advocacy or to any activity that would influence a ballot proposition.
Does that or include the committees, the ramp committees?
In their individual capacities, they would have their First Amendment rights, and so
Okay.
they would be able to go out and advocate for
But as
the
a
ramp,
group,
but they
they're-
wouldn't be able to say that they're speaking on behalf of
Okay.
Weber County.
Perfect.
Well, you know, I think we've been really good at making sure that there's been a good arm's length between us and the ramp committee. So they have their own autonomy. And so that's, we've done a good job there.
But it won't prohibit us from recognizing or putting out their public statements about particular ramp activities that are funded through this
Perfect.
current cycle.
Great. That's what we want.
Okay.
Okay, great. I think you have a consensus from this body.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
We'll get that
Thank you.
together for you.
With that, Commissioner, and the next item has been canceled. And so I'll entertain a motion to saunter until 2:00.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second that.
Yeah, second it, yeah. That's why, yeah, thanks.
Aye.
We're gonna saunter till 2:00. Thank you. At least this. So yeah, Western Airlines was the #1 hauler out of Salt Lake at the time and acquired by Delta. That's the kind of the background. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We welcome you back to our work session from our time of sauntering. We'll come back into this work session now. It's again, to recap, it's Monday, March the 18th. We're this item on our next item on the agenda. We welcome, by the way, Commissioner Frohr. Thanks for joining us back here today. We're glad to have you here. We now have a full body here. This is a discussion regarding Powder Mountain contract for road maintenance and expanding the interlocal agreement with Cache County. Our presenters today, Tammy Adelont, Sean Wilkinson, Rick Grover, Ann Winston is here with the Powder Mountain Group, but also Dason Johnson is here. We've got Joe Hadley and Bill Kobabe was with us, and Rick Grover in the room with us, Chris Crockett, Bill Ross, and always the incomparable John Bond is with us, Commissioner, so we've got a
Wow.
full tally of folks here. Tammy, I'm gonna have, since you're listed first, I'll ask you to lead out and then turn the time over to whom you think would be appropriate.
Sure. I'll be really brief actually, because Powder Mountain had requested to be on the agenda to discuss the items that you've already mentioned. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Anne, if that's okay.
Thanks, Jimmy. So
Hey, Ann.
thanks for your time. We just wanted to just have some time with you. We've got a lot going on. There's been a lot of press and individual conversations. So we just really wanted to get you up to date on where we are in the process. It's not fully cooked. These are kind of some draft maps of what we're thinking about doing. And so I just wanted to share a visual with you. And we've talked with staff and with the commissioners about Summit Pass Road over time and, you know, potentially vacating it and taking it over. And we wanted to just really talk about like a uniform like approach to how we're going to handle all of the things that we want to come to the county for and ask of the county as we move forward. So
is this kind of like the index of a book? You're just gonna kind of lay that out going forward?
I am a lawyer.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it is kind of a
No, just the simpler you can keep it for me though, and a little easier.
yeah, okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
so we basically come in, we've got, this is our existing, basically our existing entitlements, in Weber, and then it has a little bit of an interlocal in here in the cash. So this is what we have, approved. And what we want to do is we want to take a two-phase approach to making some changes to this and moving forward with what we want to do going forward. And let me see, that's what this is.
I can move some of this stuff, Ann, if you want more space.
So we basically what we wanted to show is that what we want to do in the initial phase is not a very big change from what we already have approved. Can you figure out
Yep.
this? So yeah. So Stacy sent these to the printer and I just picked them up. So I've seen them, but not in this. I think this might be. Oh, here's the change that we ultimately in this master plan want to make. And so this is where we would want to like potentially increase density are the green spots over here. And then the red spots are where we would potentially decrease density. So
you see that arrow, okay, gentlemen?
So from an overall perspective, it's not a huge change to what we already have approved. And we would come in with specifics, but the way that we're looking at this is in the short term this summer, we want to come in with some, you know, a few plats kind of in the Hippie Hill area over there where we already have, you know, approvals, and we want to do plats that will likely comply with our existing zoning and maybe come in and move some density around, and it's, you know, moving single family from here to there and things that the commission has already granted to the land use authority to make those types of changes. So I don't think that it would require a public hearing, or if it did, it would just be kind of some small changes that we would want to do in the short term this summer.
Hold on. Would that require changes then, or?
Depending, if we are doing the development agreement, is that what we're looking at?
No. So we had amended the development agreement in the second amendment that changed the process for within, and I don't have individual pages in the DR one, but each page is like a zone, like Earl's or wherever. Each one of these circles, if we move density around within the circle, it doesn't require a public hearing. It's just granted to the land use authority, just basically saying, and we came up with that because we had like the overlook, we had single family, which it had multifamily, but it was all accounted for on the same page. And it didn't really, you know, the commission had determined that it didn't really warrant the commission's review and the time to go through a public hearing to just move some single family from here to there if it wasn't a material change.
If that's what's stated and it's not triggering some other code that you all are aware of, then sounds like
and we haven't prepared the preliminary plats. We don't know exactly what we're asking for yet, but that's the plan. Is our expectation is it would be some small, potentially not even changes, but some small changes. We're probably going to reduce the actual density that we're not going to be going for the full density on any of these requests. And this would be, I think this summer we're looking at somewhere about like 200, 250 total things in some mix of density that we would come to the county to plat. And so that's the initial plan. And then what we will be doing in the next year when we have kind of a full master plan in place, is coming in with a bigger request to the county to amend the master plan and incorporate everything and address the county's concerns. And also that came into discussion with staff when we were talking about vacating Summit Pass Road. And we know we've talked to the county about that for years because the county has wanted us to take over the snow removal and the maintenance requirements for it. And we want to do that. But what we realized is that because we've put it out in the public domain, that we're looking at taking some chairlifts, making them private, expanding some private offerings, expanding some of the public offerings, that there's been a lot of controversy in the public. We didn't want to come into the commission on a request to vacate Summit Pass Road so we could take over snow removal and have the entire master plan litigated, at a public hearing, putting the commissioners in a position of having to respond to all these issues that really aren't at issue in vacating the road. They're at issue in a greater master plan amendment. So we wanted to move forward slowly, deliberately on things that are already approved that would not be controversial, and then deal head on with the questions like, what are you doing about the trail system? And, what's going to be public? What might you put, behind a private road? How are you going to access it? What's the parking going to look like? And all of these questions that the county staff had raised, we just felt it was premature to have that discussion before we sit down and really understand what we're doing. So under the DRR1, and the findings that the commission made in 2014 was the public benefit that the whole master plan provided to the county and to the public generally. There are a lot of factors: the tax base, access to the trail systems, how we allocate density, open space. There's a whole list, and there was an economic impact study that was done, or benefit study that was done. So what we anticipate is being able to address all of those questions and concerns in a proper process in front of the commissioners, addressing all of those and giving the public an opportunity to comment, the commissioners an opportunity to hear from all stakeholders, and for us to adequately address what those concerns will be. So that was that was the plan. So it makes it easier, I think, for us as the developer to go forward on small things that are not controversial, and easier for the county to respond to things that if it's within our entitlements, it's not controversial, and if it's something that's an amendment, then we'll deal with it in due course. So that was
the original plan, if I might see that.
This is the existing.
So, and I think they're also, we haven't seen anything so far that's been like a massive, when Ann talks about a phase of a greater change. I mean, there may not be much to really change. It might.
Oh, here, this is the previous. Sorry, so this is the previous ones, and then that would be this one that you put under it, that would be the suggested changes.
There's very little, hardly at all in there.
That's what I'm saying, actually. Being able to, how Ann's point is, trying to address this now, it can actually be dealt with at a flat level, right? At an application level.
So what we're looking at for this summer is really in the Hippie Hill area, and you can see where the entitlements are that we have.
For those, just for the, yeah, it's next to the Marys. The Hippie Hill doesn't quite get up all the way there, but it's just to the south.
On top of the village lift,
Mm-hmm.
and out from there. So
I'm sorry, village lift on Marys.
Yeah. So that's from an entitlement standpoint. Our plan is then to also, however we entitle it, and there's different ways, and part of what I wanted to talk to the commissioners about, we want to add density or move density, add density into Cache County. So this is what it would look like on Cache County in terms of what our land planners have come up with, and what we would want to do in terms of what our plan in Cache County would look like. So what I wanted to get the benefit of your thinking, and to maybe have you put some thought into, is whether Weber County would be open to moving our existing density into Cache County through an interlocal agreement. And this is, I think of this as probably an aggressive ask in terms of interlocal. I don't have a lot of experience. I've experienced with one interlocal agreement in Utah, and it's the one that we already have with you, which is 13 units just at the border of the county line. So then the question is this something that would make sense to Weber County to move, not add density? We have 2,800 units. It's a mix. Just move some of that density. I think this is about 400 units total into Cache County, would you be open to exploring doing that through an interlocal agreement? And then we continue to work with Weber County the way we worked with Weber County on, I mean, it was just a Ridge Nest project, which was 13 units. Is this something that you'd be willing to entertain? Because from our perspective as the developer, working with one authority, one geopolitical, entity on all of this makes sense. The roads all come from Weber County. The impact is all on Weber County from a, services, traffic, all of that. And the land is in Cache County, so the tax revenue, the property tax revenue benefit would go to Cache County under this. The same way we have our interlocal, but then you have a reimbursement to Weber County for all of the expenses that Weber County incurs to do this, staff time, all the approvals, the fees that come in from the planning department, the fees that would go to, fire services and things like that. We would adjust for that. And there's a lot to do to think about here. But before I push this any further and think about it, I just wanted to get the opportunity to see, like, is this something you think I'm crazy? And we're like, you would never do this. And we will go do a master plan in Cache County, and then we'll have to work between both counties and figure out how we're going to do this. It's going to be much more complicated. Not necessarily more complicated for Weber, but from a project base, we're going to have to deal with both political bodies and figure out how to deal with what do we do about the fire services that are going to have to come from Weber County, because that's where the primary road is. And so
all first responder services.
Yeah, I use that as an example.
Yeah.
But,
Commissioner Bolos?
I'm not opposed to it as long as Weber County's made whole in anything that you mentioned access, and I just feel like we need to be made whole on any decisions that impact the county.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar?
Well, that's a fairly aggressive ask at this point. Obviously, I'm not going to commit one way or the other. I think you hit it on the head. It's a little hard for me to say we're going to have 400 more residents burdened on the Weber County side, benefited on the Cache County side. So I guess I would have to see really the benefit. I mean, to have 400 times 3 burden our existing road up there, it just, it's problematic for me. So, and that's just part of it. You got fire, you got road maintenance, you got everything else. So I'm would probably be willing to look at it, but I wouldn't be at all inclined to approve it without direct benefit that I could show the taxpayers back to Weber County.
Ms. Winston?
So that's a good point, and one that I want to make clear. We would not be asking for additional entitlements. These units, this density is already approved under our existing DRR1. So if we didn't put them here, it's a little bit of an arbitrary where the county line is, right? So it would be, you've already approved it with respect to Weber County. So it would be shifting it onto a geographical location that's not currently within the county boundaries. But it wouldn't be an additional burden in terms of total density or total construction. It would just be the geography would be spread out further into Cache County.
So why don't we move the county boundary, move the border?
And that we've looked at that, and part of the reason is because that would require a vote of the electorate in order to do that.
Unless we did it in phases called minor boundary changes, which we've done before with Davis County. So that we've had some success with that.
Okay.
So where everything's coming on this, it's called through the Lieutenant Governor's office, a minor boundary change. And that would be done in phases, some each year, but would have to have a willing Cache County to do that. The county boundaries currently follow. The reason the boundary is the way it is up there is because of the way the water flows. So there's some other things that would go along there. So what you're not saying, your entitlements right now, I've got a few questions now for me. Your entitlements currently are 2,800.
Right.
You're not talking about 3,200. You're talking about taking the existing 2,800, leaving, we'll just say 2,400, and then putting the tax space of those last 400 into Cache County. So and I think going back to While I respect and appreciate where Commissioner Frore's coming from, he's not able to put his eyes on, but I think of all of us, he's got more experience than almost all of us around the table with being up in those mountains. Him or Methuselah, I can't remember which one.
Hey, easy there, come on.
But, sorry about that. But for me, I think Commissioner Bolos's comment, if I'm understanding you correctly, I'd say the same thing. So long as our Weber County residents were made whole in the process. Now we will see some benefit from the same 400 in the retail down the mountain, but and all the other services, it does get to be a little bit sticky because it depends on, I don't imagine it'd be Airbnb and VRBO, but if it were ever to happen that way, a lot of that gets a little tricky. So I think for me, the perfect answer would be, let's move the boundary. The second answer would be, I don't know that I'm opposed to it. I hate to lose the revenue from it, yet still providing all the services without, the reason there is a tax up there is to provide services. It's kind of like the reason there's a water system. You don't pay for the water, you pay for the infrastructure that gets the water to the house. And so that's kind of where I am on that.
And that makes.
So, and that's in line with how I'm thinking about it. We just haven't thought through all of the issues that flow from it. But, you know, the tax revenue is collected to benefit, you know, to pay for the services that are provided. And if all of the services are being provided by Weber County, we have to do the math on it. You need to have a budget, you need to study, you need to understand what the costs are and what the how the revenue is generated, and then like how Weber County is reimbursed for it.
So go ahead.
I was gonna just say, like, geographically, I mean, even if we were to go into Cache County and get a master plan to do all of this, we have access issues now. We are, you know, working on getting secondary access the way that, you know, 10 years ago we agreed through Monuments property down into 39, and we can, you know, I don't know that we can get like a public, you know, paved road, but in terms of like the emergency access, like that is something that we've been working diligently on trying to solve anyway. But it's still like, how do we develop this area in Cache County that de facto is be accessed by Weber? Then like, how do we do this with a master plan just in Cache County without Weber County's involvement and agreement? And so doing it in a way that, whether it's an interlocal or we move the boundary line or, you know, however it is, doing it through Weber County, I think makes just the most sense from like where the land is located, how you access it. And I think we're all in agreement that Weber County should be compensated for the work that Weber County is doing.
1 second, Jason. I think to finish my thought, I like the idea of making it less cumbersome on the developer to move forward here instead of working on both sides, having to do that. That's going to be an additional cost to the developer if you're having to work with two entities on that. And I think, especially in as much as this team here has certainly the expertise and have gone through it, it's going to save the developer from having to train up a new county, so to speak, on all this stuff. So I like the idea. That's the one thing that appeals to me most, is being able to work that here. There are some things I do like about it, and that's less density in Weber County up in the valley, so to speak, but it is on the other side of it. But there's some different things on that. Mr. Crockett, I'm gonna go to you, then Dason, I'll go to you.
So just help me, I'm sorry if you're helping me catch up. Are there any land use approvals in Cache County right now, or is this all within Weber?
It's all Weber. The border, the Ridge Nest, there were 13 units through an interlocal.
So be Sunrise Bubble right there in the middle.
Right there. Yeah.
Right. So right where that interlocal is. Yeah, that's 13. I think it's 13 total units.
You can do an interlocal, and it probably would be the easiest way to go about it. You'd have to approach Cache County and determine whether or not they're willing to relinquish the land use authority for the Weber County to take over that. we would be reimbursed by them agreeing to share their tax revenue with us to recoup any costs or any other, there's gotta be some benefit coming to Weaver County for us doing that. But it's completely legal to do an interlocal agreement. I think it's by far the easiest.
Yeah.
The one downside about an interlocal agreement is that they're limited to 50 years. I mean, you can renew them. So there's some, but for the most part, that's probably the most flexible process. I'd have to look into the shifting of the county line, the minor boundary adjustments. But the quickest one is interlocal. But what municipal type services do you anticipate in this area within the next year? Because we're not quite sure what's going to happen with the vacation of the road, the master plan. What type of services do you see Weber County providing up in Cache County?
So currently, nothing different than what in the next year. I mean, in the next year, we would be looking at plating within, like we started the conversation, within our existing entitlements or some minor adjustments to it, what we're already able to do in Weber County. And part of the reason for that is because of this complexity and the need to come, and discuss this with you. If you weren't amenable to it, there's no point in talking to Cache. And I know their first question would be, what does Weber say? And so we haven't engaged in those discussions in Cache County, because I think this really, the crux of it is how you feel about it and getting it done. But I did perceive it as like, legally permissible. I wasn't aware of the 50-year sunset, but, we should hopefully be through the development in 50 years. And so, but your question, I know we've been working diligently, and Amy, who's not here now, I mean, Jason, you may have been in conversations with the fire marshal in terms of getting our requirements satisfied for building a firehouse. It's a shared fire and sheriff station. So we are working on master planning that and budgeting for getting that built. And there've been conversations that I think that we're working well with the fire department in terms of satisfying their expectations and needs and clarity on when that needs to be completed, in terms of a certificate of occupancy on an amenity building. And part of what I didn't share, so with some of what we're going to shift a little bit is the initial master plan, and I know this is close to your heart, is kind of the end of Summit Pass Road, having a vibrant, town community. I know that it was discussed as like a Telluride like downtown. And what we found is that it's not feasible to move forward doing that. And so we've shifted, or in the process of, with the approval on this master plan, to shift to a more traditional kind of master plan, amenity private club, private amenities, have a couple private amenity buildings that would then come in. We're looking at 2 of them initially, one at where the top of the village chair is right now, and then one up into, which would be, we're looking at where we would put it based upon, does it need to be in Weber County? Because that's where we have approvals, or would we be able to, and what's the timing going to be to move it kind of into Cache County, but at the top over here, somewhere, either it's a top of Mary's chair, right? So top of village chair, top of Mary's chair, one that's kind of a year round, appeals to, has a pool and a spa and like all the things that you would expect to see in a year round facility. And then something at the top of Mary's, which is more of a, similar to what we have at Sky Lodge now, which is, supporting food and beverage, and ski support, locker room, or just ability for people to ski in and out of over there. And so that's a shift in terms of the master plan from this big public experience at the end of Summit Pass Road. But with that, we're looking at shifting the public access and benefit to Timberline. So we're looking, and one of the things that will be coming into the county from a permitting standpoint is permitting a renovation to Timberline Lodge, keeping the powder keg. Everybody wants to keep the powder keg. So but looking at expanding that, and augmenting the services that we provide to the public out of the Timberline area, and then what we could master plan in that area in terms of density or amenities that would benefit the public. So we're just kind of looking at shifting the benefit to the public from at the end of Summit Pass Road to, where it's accessible, where there's parking, it's easier to reach, and we can augment the services that are provided there.
So we've done these in the past. They're on a much, much smaller scale. That usually happens with areas of unincorporated county that's going to be annexed into a city, where we've had our land use, or we relinquish our control of our land use decisions to a city. So it is possible. Whatever, the tax increment financing, we don't see that diverting over into Cache County or anything like that.
That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about how that would play out. So we'd have to study
Yeah,
that.
we haven't looked at all the
Yeah.
different special financing at this point, haven't,
Yeah.
you know, we're still working on the master plan, but we'll look at TIFs or whether that's remedial bonds or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
There's lots of different ways.
Well, I think you're asking about our existing.
Oh, you're asking about
Existing TIF, and you might wanna approach cash to see,
Yeah.
you know, any
if,
increment. that's
if we
needed.
use further municipal.
But theoretically, it could work.
And then,
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
And I think this is such a valuable discussion because it's gonna happen either way. Like everyone drives through Ogden Valley, heads up there either way, and in reality, the services that are gonna come here are gonna come from Weber County either way. Right, and so I think what we're solving here is we're just getting ahead of what we need to solve anyways, because we could go to them. In the end, if we just went to the master plan, we're gonna end up in the same position anyways, where all the calls are gonna come out of here. So what this allows us to do is to give more of that control to this team here, right, that we work with. And there's more economics to work out. I understand that, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
we're gonna have to solve it anyways.
well, all of those questions would come out if we were to just proceed with our existing density zoning and go for the, you know, small plats and an amendment that wouldn't move density, but would just kind of look at putting the amenity buildings and the chairlifts that we're gonna put in and all those things in Weber. And we went separately to cash with kind of this separate plan. We can't do this without reimbursing Weber for the services that are invariably gonna be provided by Weber.
Which is administrative, so cash has been
So-
rezoned, it is an administrative act for what we need to do over there. Currently, to be able to do it, so I'm just saying, I think it's better just to work it out here.
Either way, we're gonna have to work together.
You know, this is the perfect example, of Commissioner Farrar, you kind of taught us that, but developers and development doesn't develop, let me rephrase, not developers. Development doesn't really care where the property line is.
Yeah.
Where the city line is or the county line is, and so I think as responsible, business owners or business runners for Weber County, it would be whatever to facilitate the most healthy way for that to go. I'm gonna just, before we take any more, I'd like to go around the table really quick. Joe, do you have any questions or concern? And then Bill, you're next. Mr. Ross, Mr. Wilkinson, Mr. Bond.
I'd be asking the same questions.
Thank you. You say it a lot.
No, I know.
Mr. Grover.
I'd probably be concerned about just how everything relates to the development agreement, and I know we're gonna have to amend the development agreement to accomplish some of these things. And commissioners, just so you're aware, we did, probably about 2 years ago, we did an amendment similar to what we did with Snow Basin, allowing some authority on minor changes.
That's
to
right.
occur. We really haven't looked at some of these things, so we'd have to look at that and see if. Yes.
But that Snow Basin one wasn't across another county line.
No, this is totally different. And when we did the 13 lots there, we did work with Cache County. And there was collaboration that happened on the interlocal agreement. And so obviously this is gonna be a bigger scale. And so we probably wanna just make sure that, like Commissioner Bolos, you mentioned, that Weber County is made whole on this, and that the development agreement is made whole on this because of certain agreements.
The first one was different because we were new to it, but it's worked really well. This one, I think the benefit of both commissioners' sets is the more information you have before you make a decision, you kind of say, just flood us with information, flood us with the math, flood us with the potentialities, and let them wrestle with it and digest it first before you ask them for a decision, because it's new to everybody and they need to figure it out and what the impact is. And it's got to kind of filter through all the staff. So everybody just needs time to.
Well, and John, to that point, that's why we're here today. That's why I asked for this time, because we're not, these are drafts, like we don't, but I wanted to get everybody's involvement, thoughts on it. We need to work together on how we're gonna accomplish this. And there's a lot of, like, I fully recognize we need to, understand what the math is on, what the projections are on the property tax revenue and what will we expect to be a significant increase through this project, and with Reed's involvement and the capitalization, and direction that we have now. And the project's been languishing for 10 years.
We recognize that the direction is much more positive than what we've experienced in the past. And I think because of that, you're not seeing a hard stop on this. I think that's Absolutely. If you need some help, I'd be happy. They have a different form of government in that county up there.
Mhm.
I don't know what they were thinking when they came up with that form of government, but I just wanted to throw that in.
Must have been some smart people.
I want
I'd
to
be
be,
happy to facilitate a
Thank you.
meeting with the county manager up there, David Zook, and that can help with that.
Yeah,
okay, and I know Jason's been talking with them, so.
But it is a collaboration, right? And I think to Ann's point, we're just trying to get far ahead of this, right? So we can fill out all the questions and like I said, there's so much better when we collaborate. And when we get done,
Absolutely.
So, and I'm really mindful of the commission's time, but there were a couple other things that I just wanted to raise. So, one of which being, we're gonna delay vacating the Summit Pass Road until we can deal with all of this head on. So in the interim, we wanted to expand the agreement we already have with the county on taking over snow removal and some maintenance obligations. I don't think the county is gonna have an objection to that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're working on that, and we'll come to the county with a request.
Yes, Ann sent an email last week, stating that she's asking Cortland to weigh in on the agreement that we already have and how we could potentially amend that. I brought Joe here today just so he was aware of that ask as well, because he's over our roads department. And what you mentioned in there was you would be looking at the county potentially giving you the tax revenue that we get off our special assessment area up there. And that would be the compensation for you basically taking on that maintenance obligation.
And we would have to have further discussions on the economics and all of this, but just again, we already have some precedent. We supplement what the county already does in terms of snow removal. We'd like to take it over to provide a higher level of service, and we've got, more people living up there now. We want 24-hour snow removal from a safety perspective, just from a level of service expectation. The county collects, it's like $150,000 a year from its tax district. We are looking at purchasing some heavy equipment in the expectation that we would be taking on this responsibility. So I just kind of wanted to get a nod from the from the county, from the commissioners, that this is something that we thought we'd have confidence in moving forward on, and we'll, through the due process, bring it to the commission at an appropriate hearing.
Commissioner Frohr, being in your portfolio, do you have any comments or questions regarding that?
Yeah, I do. So I've got some concerns, at least some questions. So if we vacate that road and you privatize it, I've heard some concerns with members of the public that you shut access off to the public at that point in time, trails, the upper lodge. So how does that fit into your plan if it's vacated? So is that, once it's vacated, do you plan on privatizing and cut off public access?
So this is a really good point and a good question, and part of why we're not looking at vacating it right now, because we need to answer those questions to the satisfaction of the commission and the public generally. We do have some thoughts on it. This would be an intermediate step where just this year we would take over, the county would not vacate it would still be a county public road. We would just take over the responsibility for removing the snow, and there's some minor maintenance like guardrails that I think we want to get done this summer that we would be doing, and then we would be doing it kind of like as a subcontractor for the county, and then the county would pass through the revenue it's collected for that service. But that's a very good question. We are looking at what that looks like. We're mindful of our obligations to provide free public trail access under our ZDA. There's been an evolution. There was an initial trail plan that had some regional connector trails, and the first ZDA was amended to substitute it with trails that we put in. We are looking and studying at putting in more trails in we're looking at kind of having a neighbor only or private zone and a public zone, not preventing people from accessing the public zone. It wouldn't be like a security gate. It would just be kind of a shift of focus and access points. And so what we would be doing is adding trails to the Timberline Sundown area, hiking trails, biking trails, and augmenting that from where the public can access from parking at Timberline, and then potentially having a gate, whether it's charging for parking. We're not looking at it as a security. It's not a Yellowstone club where like nobody can come and people would still be able to access all of the trails. It's just, where are people going to park and how are they going to access it? And what does that look like? We don't have all the answers, but that's part of the reason why we are pulling back on the speed at which we wanted to do this, is so that we can consider all of these questions carefully and address the county's concerns and the public's concerns. There's people who have been very vocal about this. A lot of misunderstanding about what we're doing by taking some chairlifts and having it be accessible by, you know, neighbors as opposed to, you know, a public lift ticket. It doesn't mean that people can't come and hike it or skin it or, you know, still have access to it. We're not going to have a gate that prevents people from accessing it to it. But these are things that need to be thought through. And one of the challenges of, you know, having someone like Reed, who is very aggressive and moves very quickly and is a visionary, some of these things just haven't been really vetted. And the way that we'll vet them is through dialogue with the county and addressing the county's concerns, because we're mindful that that's a requirement in the existing ZDA.
Gage, you had a couple of questions.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, but let's keep in mind, I think it's important for us to realize that the public signed off on that bond. It was really a public decision. That was their road that they supported. If that bond wouldn't have been paid, which it obviously was, you know, was close, that's a public road. So to now tell the public, hey, thanks for taking the risk on putting in that public road, we're now going to privatize it, really flies in the face of what I think was sold to the public a number of years ago. So before I am going to be comfortable with any type of privatization, I might be comfortable with maintenance, but you've got a lot of questions in for me to have answered. What are you going to do with parking, public access? What are you going to do with the amenities that are now taken away? You know, it's just a lot of issues. A lot of issues that have to be addressed before I'm comfortable. On maintenance, possibly I'd look at it, but going any further than maintenance is dead on arrival until we have, at least in my mind, for these other issues. Ann, just so you know, I don't want to lead you down a path because, as you know, the valley is not very happy. And again, you know, you say that the 400 units would not be in Weber County. Well, they'd be in Cache County, but the impact still falls back on Weber County. They still are going to drive the roads. They still go up the canyon over Trapper's Loop. So you're not taking any impact away from Weber County. So
Absolutely.
To use the, you know, excuse that, hey, we're taking density from Weber County doesn't fit well with me, because you're not shifting. If you remove density, you remove impact, and you're not doing that.
I'm sorry if I appear that I was trying to make that comment earlier. I wasn't. I was saying that it wouldn't be an increase of density. It would be the same density.
Yeah, I got that.
Right. And so
what I want to do, with all due respect, Ann, is have you kind of make whatever point you need to and wrap up, because we're going to start getting behind.
Sure. Also, in any event, we'll address all of those in due course. I think it was this intermediate measure of not vacating the road, not privatizing it, but just increasing the level of service beyond what the county's collects revenue for, and we would be subsidizing it. So
thank you.
Well, it would be, I mean, what we're looking at is year round being able to augment the level of service, and we'd have to work with the county on it. And there's one other issue I know you don't have time for, and we'll raise is we're looking at putting in 1 or 2 chairlifts in Wolf Canyon. And if you are
really,
and so, you know, you have was a 160 acre parcel up there?
Yeah, it's a block.
It's a block that is, I understand, is hunted, and I don't know what the history was there, but we'll want to talk to the commissioners about, is it this one right here? This one. And so there's potentially a chairlift that could go through there, or chairlifts that wouldn't go through there. And so we'd want to see what your receptivity would be. This would just be, you know, winter recreational use. We would need to mitigate it to make sure it's safe for people skiing back there. We have the ability, like, people can ski back there. We don't let them because we don't have avalanche mitigation, but we're looking at a plan for that. And so would the county be amenable to giving us some kind of property right to put in a chairlift, if it's a lease or a license or whatever it looks like? We could discuss it to add, and that would be public access.
So there it is again, Gage, would that come back up, Commissioner Bolos, that Wolf Creek Canyon?
Yeah, there. You've heard about that before.
Yeah, so I that's something we can discuss. There's certainly a lot more discussion that would need to take place on that.
Yeah.
But we always thought, you know, when going back in there, that could be something more than And there it is. I mean, it's just a little time. That was so,
Amazing terrain.
It
People
is.
are really excited about it. We think, you know, part of it is we're trying to augment the public experience as we are also looking at augmenting this neighbor-only experience. And so this is a great asset, but we would need the county to
I
agree
think-
with us on this.
I think the knee-jerk reaction from me on that, if that were ever to be the case, that would be one of the areas that would always remain public,
Yes.
no matter what.
Yeah.
For certain on that, but I like the idea. That's kind of a great deal. It's pretty steep back in there.
That's, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or concerns before we wrap up this portion of the presentation, Commissioner Thor?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Bolos?
Nope.
To the two of you come
Thank
in,
you.
thank you so much for caring enough to
Thank
give us, to just move us along and now we'll be able to just noodle on this for quite a while, and that's great. We'll look forward to seeing where this goes. But I think safe to say I think you'll find that this body's always open for ideas and doing a better way to do it. And it's in our interest for you to be successful. So please hear that from
Thank
us.
you.
Okay?
Yeah, I think we have a unity of interest there with the tax base, and to address your concern about the bond, that would be paid off as part of any vacation of the road. We've already had that
Yeah,
conversation.
sure.
Yeah.
Understand
Okay.
that.
The staff, any other questions before we go? Joe?
This includes Spring Park, you have said, yeah.
Yeah, I knew that was your favorite.
No, that's just a hard part of the road. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for your time. I really
Thanks to all of you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Nice to see you
Yeah, good
again.
to see you too. Well, we'll be seeing a lot
Okay.
more of each other as we move forward, you know, collaboratively getting stuff done instead of, you know,
Well, this was a good discussion.
a lot more
Thank you.
fun moving things forward than worrying about.
Thank you.
This is Greg made.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, we're gonna move on to our next item, which is a discussion regarding compensation for a particular employee. Because this is regarding compensation, I'm gonna entertain a motion to go into closed session on this. It's not listed as closed, but because it is discussing an employee, that's appropriate. So I'll entertain a motion to move to closed session.
So, is that okay?
You could do this as two ways. You could do to discuss the character competence of an individual, or you could just treat this as administrative. It's an internal organization matter. So either one, you're not gonna have a recording.
Let's for the deal, we're not gonna have recording, so we've got a motion to go to closed session.
Second,
Second, I'll place that motion, vote, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. We'll move to closed session here now. We'll be back at the conclusion of this. Christie, if you could step on in here for a moment so that we could go into closed session, please. Six, which is item number 6 regarding the 2350 North Encroachment Agreement. In just a moment, we'll start that. We have Mr. Crockett, Liam Keogh, Gary Myers. You know, he knows a lot of stuff, that Gary Myers. And just in case, you know, I wanted to make sure, Gage, you caught that. That's important for you to know.
I did.
Especially the company you kept earlier today.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you can thank me later for that. Yeah.
Okay. Is that so that it's Sean Wilkinson, Gary Myers, and Liam Keogh? Gary, I'm gonna ask you Sean's just walking in the room. Let's go ahead with that.
Yeah. I'll let Sean kind of lead this discussion, if that's okay.
This is the encroachment, 2350 North Encroachment Agreement.
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you. Commissioners, out in the Weaver Industrial Park, we have a road that is a stub. It's partially paved. It is not paved all the way to the county boundary, if you will, the unincorporated boundary.
Mhm.
What it does at that boundary, it would cross over a tesoro pipeline and go into Far West City. And in Far West City, there's a parcel that I believe it's the Black Pine Group is developing right now. So they need that 2350 access in order to get to their property. But Tesoro will not let that road cross its pipeline without this agreement. So Liam has done some great negotiating with them. Essentially, Black Pine will be the group that maintains that road. Well, the county will be able to operate it. We will be able to use it. It will remain open to the public, but we will not be required to maintain it. So if it's damaged, if the pipeline is damaged, anything like that happens, the county is not liable for that.
That is correct. Well, that sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds good to me.
So that's really it, but it will be on your agenda tomorrow. So we just wanted you to be aware of it.
Gage, do I need to go out and put my feet on the ground out there? Are you okay with this?
No, I think, yeah, this is just out in the industrial park, isn't it, Sean?
Correct, that's right.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a good deal.
Okay.
Yeah, the county does not pay for building. Black Pine will build the road. They will maintain the road. We just get to use it.
This is the Black Pine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
That's on the agenda tomorrow, Gage.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Good job.
Count it.
Keep up the good work.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
You're back on schedule.
No, almost. Easy. Yeah, we're still a little 2 minutes behind. We're gonna now move just a moment as we move these folks out of here. We're gonna get onto our sheriff's office schedule.
All right. All right.
Hey, Gary, did you talk to Henderson, Mark Henderson?
No, but it appears as though I missed a call from him today when I was dealing with
Would
something
you give
else.
him, make sure you talk to him?
Yeah,
He's a real good guy, real reasonable guy.
okay.
Calls the estate stuff.
Oh, I think I know.
He owned the classic helicopters, really good.
Oh, really?
Yes, all the ones that shuttle the 911, that's him.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll give him a shot.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Wonderful. Chief? Sheriff?
How are you?
Good.
You shake my hand.
No, I won't.
I'm eating and I don't want you to.
No, that's not.
Saying Italian.
That's what I heard.
No, that's why I said it all.
Let's try that handshake one more time. Atta boy, perfect.
That's on the camera.
Yep, that's okay.
Well, this is good. We're only 97
Feel strong.
million, 900 million.
Okay. Okay.
If I can have those now.
Let's continue with this. This is our sheriff's office update. We'll lead with our great sheriff Arbon, and then Chief Reese is here with him as well. Thank you. Gage, just so you know, we've also kept a couple attorneys in the room just for backup.
It's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go.
All right, I'm gonna start with the least fun first, as far as short term. I called Chris Allred, and this is about House Bill 84, which last year was House Bill 61, about the state or the county safety officer position. And so I asked Chris if he would have somebody from his office go through the bill, make sure it's in line and we're meeting the requirements. And if there's anything I'm missing, and Chris assigned Liam to review it for us. So I knew I'd be talking about this today and you guys might have some questions for me. So I asked Liam to be here with us.
Mr. Keough.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
You want the rundown?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So in short, basically what this new bill is requiring the sheriff's office to do is be the point of contact for the schools and all school safety issues. So the sheriff's office will now be responsible for coordinating training, doing an annual safety analysis or test, whatever it's called, for each school building in the county. The sheriff is going to have to do annual, biannual, and initial trainings for every school guardian, anybody who wants to carry a firearm in the school grounds and have that authority to be the school guardian. The sheriff's going to be responsible for that training that occurs for these people. The sheriff is also going to be responsible for the policies that come along with this, ensuring that there's a policy in effect in coordination with the state individual who's tapped to run that role as well. The sheriff has to coordinate with them and establish a policy, and it all works with them. But so they're gonna be the go-to for all school safety.
Are we getting any?
Wait a minute,
Go ahead. This is Sheriff Commissioner Bowles. This is
Do you
in your
mind?
portfolio.
and how much are we getting from the state to cover this?
Oh, a whole nothing.
I thought I'd ask the question.
No, that's good.
I know you were
How
gonna
much,
ask
how
it.
much are we getting from the school district to cover this?
Well, the school district gets their own big allotment of this, and they don't necessarily need to have to give any of it.
They really do? They really get some?
Yeah, they got quite a bit.
There you go.
I know, I think Commissioner Frohr is listening in, but I know that we talked in the past that he was gonna work his best this legislative session and just assuming, because I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of discussion, but doesn't sound like we got anything out of this bill that could help compensate us for it.
No.
But is the district's funding that they received earmarked for this?
For this program specifically,
Yeah.
no. They received, I mean, they have like $100 million or something in this bill that they're going to use towards school safety improvements, variety of physical improvements, their own assessments of the school safety initiative, what they need to do to make their school safe. Yeah,
One-time money.
yeah, one-time money, yeah.
Commissioner Bowles, comments?
No, it's one-time money, so I guess we don't get any of it.
Commissioner Frohr, any comments?
Sounds like another unfunded mandate to me. And I had some discussions with a representative that passed the sponsor, and he was just dead set on putting appropriation for the counties because he felt it would probably kill the bill. And I said, well, you just pass that on to us. So I don't know. To me, it wasn't fair. The school districts, basically, they get their program through one-time funding. Everything they need gets taken care of, and we get stuck with the ongoing cost for training. And what really concerns me is the liability aspect, that if the sheriff's training for some reason doesn't flow through and somebody either gets hurt on one side or the other, guess who gets stuck with the bill on that? We could ask our well-versed attorneys, but my opinion is it would probably be us. So anyway, I'm not very happy about this, as you can tell.
This is crap.
That was Gloria giving comments. She was giving a little color.
I can tell, but that's true. You know, this is a bunch of, it's.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I wish I had better news, but no, sheriff's spot on.
Yeah, this is you say it's a 61 that morphed into 84.
So started out last year's House Bill 61. We knew this was coming. And then Ryan Wilcox, I believe, and some others felt that there were some additional items that needed to be added to, sorry for the wrong language, but added to House Bill 61, which is now 84. And what became a point was these guardians, as they're calling them. And according to Wilcox, this is language they got from, I believe, Florida. And what they're doing with schools down there, it's kind of their blueprint. And so this is, and I want to make it very clear that I'm behind this 100%, but I also want to make it clear to this group and the commission that this is, I understand it's a heavy lift for the county, but there's an extremely heavy lift for the sheriff's office.
Oh, yeah.
And here's why. One, we need a new position. We're working with Sarah Swan. We have 58 schools.
Yeah, if you're working with Sarah Swan, I hope this whole thing is funded.
What about Jazz?
Sure.
Why don't you call her?
Yeah. So
the Jazz has plenty of money.
So what we did is we looked at the position, we looked at the requirements, and we felt, would this be a chief position, which clearly it wasn't. Would it be a captain? No. Lieutenant? Yes. Sergeant? No. And so we went through it. The good news is we can hire a civilian to do this. So we could save some money on that end. So when we open this, we want to open it to both. civilian. But the key is to make this successful is experience. So if there's a retired individual, that we can set that expectation that they've got school resource experience. The other problem that really is a challenge to the sheriff's office is if we have 58 schools, which are public, private, and charter, that are requiring this, that would be the primary for the new position. But these guardians are going to need to be trained. And so it very well likely will fall upon the sheriff's office to do the training. So if you take 58 schools and if each one of them has a minimum of 2 people as guardians, which I don't believe our estimates are thinking 3 to 4, we have to train their firearms. And this sounds a little facetious, but there's a little bit of frustration that we're anticipating is where you could have a whole bunch of people. Someone's got a revolver, someone's got an automatic, they've got different calibers, then who, what ammo, and is the gun safe? Does it need to be checked by an armor to make sure that there's just so much going on, and and we addressed this with the legislature, but they got their guardians, and it's the burden is on the sheriff's office, which again, 100%, I see the vision, I want to support it, but this comes with a burden, and we have 3 people in our training bureau. Two, sorry. And we have a few other deputies that do the firearms training. We could be training 300 to 700 people. And we have to do this twice a year.
You have to do an initial one when they first come on, then a biannual training, and everybody has to do it annually as well. The annual one is a firearms in-person one.
Yes. So there's some unknowns here, to be very clear. It could go a lot smoother, and then also, as you guys know, we have 2 new schools that are opening up. The junior high and the high school, and SRO. And as you guys know, there is good news to this. You guys know that we renegotiated the contract with the schools 50-50 the first year, 60-40, 70-30, etc. So
will it end at 70-30?
I think it's 70-30 or 80-20. I have to pull back up. And with the unknown, with school resource officers, typically there's not a whole lot of interest from line staff to be SROs. We're hoping we'll have some interest. That'll put us at 9, and then a sergeant will put us 10 in that bureau alone, where schools are paying the most part of that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that sergeant in the school or just supervising?
He has a lot of other collateral assignments, but he can be in the school.
But he doesn't have a school assignment?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 7. He's the 8th.
Okay.
And so furthermore, there is no SR school resource officer training this year in Utah. The nearest, there's 4: Grand Junction, Colorado, Nampa, Idaho, Phoenix, Arizona, and Billings, Montana. The earliest one looks like is August 2nd. So if we bring on a school resource officer that has no training, this needs to be done before school starts. So this is one of their requirements. So sorry, but this is what, we are burdened with this too. And we need to open these positions up. We are the only county, according to the last email thread, that does not have the position filled or has not opened it. And we need to get going, is what I'm saying.
We really are.
In the email thread that I was part of, not everybody participated, and some schools or counties may not need it, may be shared with other counties. The ones that are 5,000 and 10,000 population, I don't know where their schools are. But the sheriffs that were polled 2-3 months ago, we were the only ones that just haven't even had it funded or even put out for it at the time. And this is a skilled position that we need someone very good in, because it's going to be a lot of work, at least the first year.
You probably ought to get with Mr. Park and figure out where we're going to do. I would think originally, Commissioner Bolus, this is in your portfolio.
Go ahead.
Well, you have some vacant positions. They'll probably pull the money from a vacant position first, would be my guess, and then figure out how to backfill. That's just knee-jerk reaction. Commissioner Bowles.
You're right, that's the first place to start. I told the sheriff though, unless we wanna go to a 2-member commission, and then I'll fill that position.
It's an option. It's an
Oh,
option.
so I wasn't, we're not talking about form of government again, I don't think on this call. Your gauge
What
is
if I
off.
just resign?
Yeah, well, that's, we can't stop that. We'll hope you would reconsider. Okay, so, okay, any comments on that?
No,
What else
do
do
you
you?
guys have anything else?
Boy, what other
on
good
that?
news do you have to share with
Oh,
us? this
plenty
morning?
more. I will say this, I do not plan on asking for new additional staffing positions for the training. We might have to get to a point where we open that up for a civilian, because, you know, that's a technical position. But we'll just see how much interest is in the guardians first and just go day by day to see how this rolls out. But if we do need the 3 positions immediately, at least to get them going as far as so we can open them up and get some good candidates.
3 positions.
The 2 schools and then the security position. The state one.
Okay, wow. Okay. What else do you have for us today?
Well, all right, switching gears. This is why I brought Reese. You guys, we gave you the plans for the expansion of the jail with 5 or 6 options. We've narrowed it down to option 1, which is A and B. As a result of last meeting and kind of the feel that I got, Chief Reese and I decided, we had a discussion and we thought, what else can we do to on our end to be responsible to the public, the voters, the residents about the finances. So we called the GSBS up and we told them, what can we do with 5 million? What can we do with 10 million? What can we do with less than the ask of this facility? And so they put some plans together, some ideas, some thoughts. They came up to our office. We visited for about 2 hours. And I will turn it over to the chief and let share that discussion, if you will.
This is bottom line what we need. That would,
or you could just say
is
that.
what you're asking for?
Well, like the shoehorn and what they could do, but it still end up.
At the end of the day, it still ends up being like, this is as narrow as and proper use of funding for 2024. What this proposes is it allows for future expansion appropriately and safely without locking future administrations in. It allows the current facility to be used as a secure facility so we can take back 32-person housing sections and use them as 32-person housing sections rather than 14, 15 like we have to right now. We talked with the architect about a lot of different options about the corridor. Just the expanding the future corridor itself is $1 million+ to create that hallway by the time you put in the sewer and the feed and all of the other infrastructure underneath
This
it.
corridor right here that connects.
Yes, now.
The new corridor, yeah.
And then you can do parts and pieces of it, but it's every piece we took away led to a discussion of that doesn't actually get us what we need. We need a medical clinic and room for a medical staff. You guys have both been in our facility, you know what we're currently struggling with to make sure that we provide the proper care for our incarcerated population. So we need that. So if we just do that, then we're not actually alleviating our mental health housing space. And so then we get stuck up against that wall of you build a clinic, but you're not actually supporting it with the mental health housing space. What else would you like?
on your plan in front, you can pick any one, but if you look at the left sections, the left two pods, we talked about, the term was shoehorning. How we could save money and adopt some of alpha pod to make that converted into the medical mental health housing. And once we start taking away beds that were designed as a jail, then we're giving up all the space that we're giving right now. Just 3 weeks ago, I shared in our last meeting that we approached 750 or 780 at our jail, and that's pretty much full, especially with the medical mental health that they're taking away from. And we're starting to hit those peaks sooner and more frequent. And so we realistically, we could go back to only letting certain people come into our facility. And remember what happened with COVID. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Commissioner Farrar, any questions?
No, so what was the bottom line number that was on that last report or last proposal, I guess? I don't.
Chief Reese has got it right here, Gage. Hold on just a second. 30.8.
Is this for both of these options?
Yeah.
Yes.
The same square footage, Commissioner.
30.8 million.
Yeah, and then also too, this does not include the renovation for the interior for video court and so forth, which is about 2.2 or 2.4 is that's the ongoing battle. I know I've reported on this for the last couple of years, especially during COVID. The judges threatened to call me and some other sheriffs into their court about not letting people have court or video time. And it is, in the long term, we do save money on transportation and so forth, but the upfront cost is a lift.
So roughly 35 million still is kind of what you're looking at.
Well, if you add the John Bond percentage and the Scott Park percentage, I think he said it's around between 36 and 38, if I recall last time we discussed. That's
okay.
With all the safeguards. I also, what's worth mentioning, commissioners, sorry if I'm yelling, I feel like I'm talking to somebody in St. George.
You are.
But what I'm glad that GSBS reminded is that $30 million includes everything furnished, every closet, every door handle, the paving, the paint, everything. It's not just the facility, because there's a lot of times we get into things and we forget about the little stuff, the faucets and fixtures.
So
this is complete.
Mattresses, you're talking
all that.
Okay. Well, let's pray for more sales tax.
But this is every week, every month, it's becoming a more urgent of needs for us, especially in the jail. You guys have walked through that, so I just want to make sure.
No, and I understand that, and I know that you've got the needs there. There's no question about that. You know, to me, there's two options. Obviously, the cheap interest rates have changed a little bit. The geo bonds, in my mind, still an option. You know, if you decide it was in your best interest to go ahead with the geo bond, you know, maybe the 35 or 30, 40 million, something the public would approve. I don't know. In terms of other options, obviously we have to look at the overall county budgets and what we're required to do. And the first thing we're required to do by contract is replace our parking terrace. And we're looking at options, how best to possibly create a public-private partnership. And you probably heard this, Sheriff, but we're looking at some options to save some of our available cash. We don't have enough cash to take care of all our projects. I think you know that. I think John Bond's probably discussed that with you. So the only way we make this work is to create some type of private-public partnership to free up some of our capital that can then be spread between the sheriff's office, ice sheet, and a couple other projects that we see coming down the road without using all our available cash. So geo bond, in my mind, is still an option. We're working to see what we can do. We had a meeting last week. I'm sure Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Bolos can obviously talk to you about that, but we're looking at creating that using some existing real estate equity to save our cash. But we won't have those answers, in my opinion, probably till, I don't think we'll really know where we are for 4 to 6 months before we can make any commitment. So, I'm on board with where you're going, but right now, in my opinion, we don't have the funds available to commit anywhere close to 30 million and live up to our obligation with our parking terrace and what other issues that we have to face. So again, I'm a finance guy. I want to do what's in the best interest of Weber County citizens in terms of bonding, in terms of sales tax revenue, whatever we need to do. But the parking terrace enters into that to be a big decision. And we want to make the right decision. So it would, again, I wouldn't feel comfortable painting and putting Weber County in a position that uses every available penny that now we have to indebt the citizens of this county for a parking terrace. Brian, so I hope you understand. We are looking at it, we understand, but my opinion, we have to do what's in the best interest of the citizens to protect those tax dollars.
Commissioner Bolos. Any questions?
No, I'm just gonna add that.
Okay, nothing to add. Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else, Jeff?
No, thank you for your time. What can we do for you?
Thank you. Just keep coming with great news.
What's the doodle on the back? Is it a sunset?
I can't remember what I started.
Hey, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep moving along.
Thank you.
Jan.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Liam.
Yeah.
Chris, good to see you guys.
You too.
Okay, commissioners, our next item on our agenda is a discussion regarding a fraud risk assessment. We'll invite Scott Park into the room now. We've got Stephanie Ebert. Boy, what an upgrade we've got today. Ms. Ebert, welcome, and fraud risk assessment. Thank you.
We are in the season of audits right now. Our external auditors are here. Today is their first day, so Scott is busy with them. And so I am here to present the fraud risk assessment questionnaire from the Office of the State Auditor. We've gone through and given ourselves a score of 395 out of 395 points. So we are at a very low risk level according to this questionnaire. And basic separation of duties. And so this is a form that just needs to be, that's been completed and just needs a signature from the Chief Administrative Officer, which would be you, and the Chief Financial Officer, which would be Ricky, and Ricky has signed it. Do you have any questions that I hopefully can answer?
Commissioner Frohr, just in case you were doing the math at home, that's a perfect score.
That sounds like 100% to me, but it's been a long time since I've been in school, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, I know what school you went to.
Yeah.
Mowita was a good math place. Hey, so no, Bonneville, well, no, Weber High. Weber High. It was South Junior High. Okay. All right, Sharon, any questions? You know what? It does come with a thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
I'll pass that along.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
Okay. There you go.
Why, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Anything else for me before I go? I don't think I'll be back for the rest of the day.
I don't see you back.
But you're welcome
Thanks,
anytime you'd
okay.
like to come.
All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you so much. On another note, Commissioner Frohr, the presentation that was left by Sheriff Arbon on those options, I'll place on your desk, so you'll have that when you get back.
Thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion now, if we can, to move into closed session, which is discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. You know, Mr. Crockett, I don't call for a roll call. I know that when you go into closed session, you should, but in as much as I can hear each of the three body, I hope that's okay. Thanks.
Next time you lose a finger.
Gage, I may have to call you again on the
Yeah, so
phone.
you didn't call me? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Are we,
I'll
is there another work session after this?
Yeah, there is one more item after this.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
I can talk to you about two quick issues.
She's called the next one.
Okay, we're a little early, I see.
I texted Liam and I said, if there was a thought bubble above the sheriff's head during that, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, I know that he just feels defeated in everything, honestly.
I'm glad we all know what we're talking about.
I love that movie.
Well, welcome back to our, there we go. There we go, Christie. That's where I was trying to get her done. Welcome back to our work session. This is a discussion on the Longhorn Estates rezone. Led today will be Felix Yavarino, if I say that correct, Rick Grover, and Charlie Ewert. We also are joined by Mr. Crockett. Mr. Yavarino?
Yes, I'm actually gonna bring up a couple of slides to help us with.
Do you want to share the screen then?
Yes, I'm gonna bring up this map here and the development agreement, and we can kind of talk about it.
Go ahead. This one? No, that's Geo the Gizmo.
I just got it up on the screen.
Okay, yep, I was just trying to bring up the PowerPoint slide. Let me go to my Zoom and then I'll share screen. Oh, it says you cannot share screen while other participants stop.
Okay, now try it. Okay, Felix, there you go, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
This is a rezone proposal out in Western Weber, and what they're looking to do is rezone about 40 acres from the A2 to the R115. And way out here in roughly 7,100 west and like 670 south. Let me show you this area map, give you an idea of the rough location. And so the area in red is the rezone. The area in yellow is the area that was, the planning commission decided to leave that part off of the rezone. And simply because the Marriotts, the people who own this property in yellow, weren't willing to enter into the development agreement. And so what the planning commission did is they forwarded a positive recommendation to the county commission for that rezone of just this area in red, including this southern portion, which is called Vaquero Village. And this is the one that we've been having. I'm sure everybody's heard of this one. It's pretty notorious because of some of the issues that have taken place with regard to the incomplete subdivision improvements and also the inoperable secondary water system. So that just kind of gives us a kind of a baseline of what this proposal is about. And I'd also like to bring up some details from the development agreement that should also be helpful for us. And let me bring that one up right now.
Were you gonna do that today?
Yes. I know, this technology, it's really nice when it works.
I just take a little nap.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty standard, most of this stuff here. What I'd like to really get down to is the development standards for the Vaquero Village and the Longhorn Estates. And so here we have development standards, and we've taken some of the comments that we've had from the public, and also some of the comments from the planning commission, and also things that the planning division would like to see as far as improvements within the Vaquero Village subdivision. And so what we'd like to see, if you look at 6.2.1, there's street right-of-way improvements. And
We have 6.2.2 secondary water system improvements. And our goal in making these requirements and standards is so that when the Longhorn Estates comes in and starts doing their development planning, the improvements within Vaquero Village will be done in concert with the, design and replatting of the Vaquero Village subdivision. And also some of the landscaping that needs to be completed within Vaquero Village. And then if you look at 6.3, these are the requirements that are specific to the Longhorn Estates property. We've really just taken much of the standards that apply to the R115 zone code will obviously apply to this Longhorn, but there's also some special conditions that we're looking at. And if you'll look at, so 6.3.1.2, traffic study, and then going down from there, the next one down is some pathway improvements. Planning division would like to see a pathway along the canal. So there's a canal that runs along the north of this property.
Back to that map, will you?
Yes. There's a map here. Let me show you. There's a map here within this development agreement that will also be helpful. Takes a minute to load. Okay. Don't want to touch it yet. Wait for it to populate here.
Carol's down in the lower right-hand corner, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And there's the pond for the storage, water storage.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so just along this north subdivision boundary, there's actually a canal. And so the general plan and the planning division would like to see a pathway. And Mr. Pat Burns also provided us a kind of a master plan of the area that does show that pathway. There's with the understanding there's going to be some cooperation between the developer and the county and also the canal company for that. But you can see what the planning division is intending here is for this to conform with the smart growth principles of the general plan. And also this design would also conform to the street connectivity requirements in the code. And that's why you see so many trails and pathways. You also see there's some limited access that would be applicable in this circumstance. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, and I'm just going to put my cursor. Can you see my cursor there on that?
Commissioner Frohr, can you see his cursor?
I can. Great, thank you.
Yeah, so this is a proposed to be a major collector. So what the planning division is looking for is primarily to limit access, single family access points from this major collector. And the developer has proposed to create what are called 6-packs, and where you have lots that would share a single access point in. And so you can see that just to start here, 15 through 20, those 6 lots would share a single access in. And in doing so, you're limiting the number of access points along this collector. So we think that's a pretty good solution in order to still allow some houses and some development along this road without having a whole each house requiring the driveway access. And let's see if there's anything else. Go back to.
Are those publicly maintained roads? Those access drives?
So, yeah, the 6-pack accesses they would need to be private.
Yes.
Yep. But, the public roads would be just the main ones that are
Okay.
built to the county standard for the
Basically,
public
tree
standard.
line looking like.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see here. Maybe I'll go back up to the, this is so slow to load. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna ask a couple of questions
Yeah.
since you're here. So there's been a lot of question or concern about that first thing, and I know, Mr. Burns, you inherited a lot of crap with that, just all the different moving pieces. And all of a sudden it's put on you, then everybody's got the hate out for you because you're the new guy that, you said, Felix, that this, or Rick, quite Phoenix is trying to get this mentally, to get that to load. I'll go to you. What does this fix the issues that the folks in Vaquero had that are now inherited?
Yeah, the biggest concern was the secondary water.
Right.
Trying to get that taken.
But then they got all the trees and they got all the other improvements and everything else on that. I mean, they came and sat in this room and they had all these things that,
Yeah.
and then I wanna make sure they're paid attention to, but on the flip side.
Yeah, we worked with Pat and we worked with them, taking into their considerations, and like I said, the secondary water pond, that was a big thing, and then making sure we have the right drainage away from the homes in that area. And then also the sewer, making sure that they have the opportunity to connect to that if they want to.
Then you had one issue where you had to do code enforcement out there as well.
We did.
Okay. Okay, I want to just make sure that those folks know that they were heard. And that but there's gotta be maybe Ashley, there's gotta be a really good education thing. Hey, look, this is happening in tandem. This is happening together. And that's how this is gonna work going forward. I would hate to have, honestly, I'd hate to have that other new subdivision proceed at a more rapid pace than the improvements in the existing one, even though it's a burden that you now get the chance to fix. But does that make sense? So how you fix that, or I educate that, of whether it's flyers or door to doors, or I don't know. But if you could, anything you could do on that would be.
What if I put a letter together that put all this in regular English of what I'm required to do? So it'll say, upon final approval, it'll go through the secondary water. I'll explain what type of secondary water is going to be pressurized, and I'll put it through all of their secondary systems that they have existing now. That'll be eliminated, and it'll have a pressurized line through it. We're putting the 10-foot sidewalk, the landscaping, we're getting rid of the HOA. One of the guys that lives there, we're gonna deed some of the ground that's existing to him. And then like what Rick
Could
was
he be
saying-
your Pied Piper?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was just thinking if it could be somebody else other than you that lived in that subdivision that was maybe part of the crew that could be the Pied Piper for all this.
Sure, and I'll put a letter together for it, and I can have you guys look at it and approve the language on it, and maybe this has gone through the commissioners at their behest, this is what we've done.
So a lot of them are gonna say to us, at least my thinking is they're gonna say, they ought to make Pat do this first before they do this other stuff.
So
I respect the fact the
agreeing
funding
to-
mechanism's gonna come off this other piece. I get that.
Once I get final, I have my funding mechanism to open up. So the lenders on this project have already agreed. They know exactly where I'm at with it, what's happened. And they fully agreed that the second we get approvals, I can do this in tandem before I build the first house in.
Boy, that'd be a nice thing.
Yeah. And
What about the water company? What about your,
we'll start that we were trying to get that done before the secondary water season opens.
I'm talking
now.
about Randy Giordano's company out there, the West Weaver Water.
His biggest thing is that we have a fully approved secondary water system that's not gravity fed.
Okay.
And so we have that being designed right now.
Is this in their water district?
Yes.
So they would be the approving body on that, correct?
So they don't have, yes, it's not Weaver County, but it is Randy who has to approve.
I'm just talking about the water part of it,
Yep.
right? Okay, I don't have any questions. Do you have any
Nope.
questions? Do you have any questions, Commissioner Thor?
I do.
Please.
Appreciate you bringing that. So, and I agree, and the letter's great, but the only way that I would be in the approval process, those improvements to Vaquero Village would have to be done and funded, basically escrow to take care of those. I'd want some engineers' estimates on completing those secondary water before any building permits were issued on the new phase on Longhorn Estates. Because I'm not going through another hearing with those people when they come in and say, look, why are you starting new homes here when he still has us that he's leaving us holding the bag. So Rick, I'd want to make sure that, but other than just a letter, we need to have some type of financial guarantees that those funds would be escrowed in some form. The other issue I have is now with Marriott's not giving you access, how do you plan on handling the traffic? You can't have that number of homes. I don't think that even meets ordinance to come out on a single egress off on 900 South. So how does that work?
Yeah. So I do have a second access through the Marriotts. They've agreed to that. They just didn't want me to put their whole rezone, and just because the rezone requires the development agreement, the conceptual, and they didn't want to be strong held to whatever I was putting in. And so they have fully agreed. We've already signed it, notarized, and ready to record an easement for the 27-foot wide easement and the sewer easement going through their property. They're fully in favor of that. But
hold on, Felix, in the meantime, will you please pull that up so that Commissioner Thor would have the privilege of being able to see that on the screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to that concept.
And just
again, I think we need, so planning, Felix, I'd want to make sure that those easements are in place, so that we can't have that size of development going in without additional access, egress, ingress off. You can't have that traffic going on 900 South. That we've got a problem. And then the big issue is, what are you doing for sewer out there? You say, and you've got to have water and sewer will serve letters. Has that been accomplished?
Yes, we're going through Little Mountain, and we're going to take a pressurized sewer system to Little Mountain.
So have they approved that? That's not my understanding.
Well, they gave us the ability to serve, they annexed us in. We have applied for the actual will serve agreement.
Okay, well, so again, until we've got issues with LMSA, we're not sure what capacity, and as a board member out there, I would just caution, we don't want to give any approvals until we know exactly what LMSA is able to serve. I don't want to get the county in a bind where we make promises and LMSA can't deliver. So Rick and Felix, you need to be very careful with that process.
Okay.
Got it.
And that also would protect though, Pat here too, though. Because I'm sure, I want to make sure that you guys are protected.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't want us to give approval and then have, again, LMSA is a long way from being able to deliver what Pat says they can deliver. And if we give approval, then he comes back on the county, and we're just not going to get involved with that issue. Let LMSA solve it. We've got some RFPs going out for expansion. Let them be able to prove that they can actually provide a service before we go ahead and give any additional approvals, Rick.
Yeah,
that needs to be communicated to our planning.
That's on LMSA though, correct?
It is, but I'm saying that you can't have a developer come in and say, we've got agreement with LMSA when LMSA doesn't, and LMSA has not issued a will serve letter, at least from what my knowledge is. They've annexed it in, but there's a long ways from providing a will serve.
Yeah, we have Ashley can pull it up really quick, and we gave it to you too, Felix, in the preliminary
There is an ability to serve letter. I don't know if they intended it to be that or not. I'm not sure what the recent conversations with LMSA has been, but we did receive a letter from LMSA saying that they intend to serve the subdivision. They've got the ability to do so under certain circumstances. But that said, this is just rezone. It's not subdivision plating. They won't be able to go through the plating process without affirmation from sewer, from water, secondary water, secondary egress. All those things will have to be accomplished when they go into for the final subdivision plating.
But we can make those conditions as part of the rezone.
Right.
And
Be careful because LMSA does not have the capacity right now. And you may have received that they may intend to service that area, but they're not able to service that area as we speak.
And that may be exactly what
just be careful.
Yeah.
And I agree with you guys, just so you're fully aware too, I'm actually meeting with Black Pine tomorrow and looking if I go that way too. If I go east, because mine's a pressurized line, I can go anywhere I want. So if I go east and tie in with Black Pine, Charlie found it.
Oh, you don't need to, okay.
I can go east possibly too. It's a little further. That's why I decided to go west, plus helping LMSA, giving them impact fees, giving them more money.
But that's the approval on the next process,
The
right?
subdivision. Yeah, that'll have to be taken care of. The easements through there, all those things will be taken care of at that time, but it's okay to make those conditions as part of the rezone as well. So,
Sure. As long as those are clearly stated. I just don't want to get the county in another lawsuit here.
Yeah, and also, Gage, just so you guys fully are aware too, I've just recently over the weekend finalized contracts on the MIBUS piece, which is directly to the east. And so that'll be my other ingress, egress, the access. I probably won't even have to use the other one going. I'll probably put it in just for safety reasons. But I've been working on the MIBUS piece for quite a while. I didn't know for sure if I'd get it under contract or not, but it finalized over the weekend. So
was which MIBUS is that?
Directly east.
Do you remember the first name?
So it's
MIBUS, pull up the contract. No, it was it was a MIBUS family trust, but one MIBUS signed, and I can't remember his name, but
okay,
it's on the contract.
Either Gene or Ray.
this road right here leads right out to it.
Okay.
So it's right on the other side of the pond.
do you want to identify that, Felix, for Commissioner Frower?
Sure.
John.
Okay.
Easily get to that one. Sure.
Got it.
Yeah, I know the piece you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one problem they had was they only had one main egress and ingress and egress. And so that's why it was good for me to buy it, because I can supply another. Helps me, helps them, helps everybody. I'm just a helpful guy.
Okay.
And that secondary pond will supply the water for everybody.
So, Commissioner Bolos, any comments for you? Feelings? Then, are we okay then with this? I think I am under where we're headed for this step.
Yeah, with those conditions, I'm okay with it. We want to make sure again that it's more than a letter. We need to have a executed security document from either a lender or some type of bank authorization. Letter of credit.
For sewer?
No, for the stuff
for the Vaquero.
For Vaquero Village.
Yeah. So in the development agreement, it specifically says that the Vaquero improvements will be taken care of prior to other improvements being.
That's fair.
Yeah, in the development agreement, it does state that.
Well, I understand that, but how you didn't enforce it, Charlie?
So we're gonna make sure that they post a bond escrow agreement.
Okay.
I think that's what you're referring to. So in the development agreement, it says that all of the improvements that are needed in Vaquero will be bonded with the Longhorn escrow. And so we'll make sure the agreement and all that cover all of the outstanding items from Vaquero.
That's what I understood you asked for, Commissioner Frower. Does that sound what you're looking for?
That's exactly right. Do you have an engineer's estimate though? Do you know what that amount is?
Not yet.
That comes at subdivision.
Okay. No, I understand. So as long as that's in there, but you need to have you need to have the engineered estimate so you know what the amount is rather than just state that.
Yeah, so Commissioner Furrow, we're saying that they cannot plat the Longhorn Estates subdivision until we have that engineer's estimate and the escrow and all the funds in hand for both Longhorn and the Caro.
I like it. Okay.
Atta boy. Okay, then you've got a consensus, Felix.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, that takes care of me.
We're gonna reach out to the neighbors as well and make sure they can see everything that we're asking for the Caro.
That's just one, that's a good education, or just letting them know just helps.
I like that. Yeah, good.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything else? Not on this item, then I'll entertain a motion, the last motion of the day.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.
Bronco sends his best wishes to you two, by the way.
Rodeo.
Got him.
Yeah, great. That's a crock.
I'm just trying to keep